Hey everyone, and welcome. We're so glad you're with us for this devotional from the You Need Faith in Jesus team. Today, we're diving into Psalm 81. And let me tell you, this isn't just any old song. It's a powerful look into God's heart and the life-altering choice that's in front of every single one of us. So let's just start with a big question, one that really gets to the core of what we're talking about today. What if you were missing out on the absolute best that God has for you, and maybe you don't even know it? It's a heavy thought, isn't it?
Well, believe it or not, this ancient psalm, thousands of years old, actually hones in on one specific choice. A choice that literally makes all the difference between a life of just getting by and a life that's overflowing with God's richest blessings. So, let's get into it.
Now, this psalm doesn't ease you in. Nope. It kicks off with a bang. It starts with this bold, loud command for joyful, all-out worship. Right from verse 1, the instruction is crystal clear. Sing aloud unto God our strength. Make a joyful noise unto the God of Jacob. This is not a polite suggestion for quiet meditation. It's a command to be loud about it, to be passionate, to be expressive. And why? Because it's the only fitting response when you realize that God is the actual source of your strength. And it doesn't just stop at singing. The psalmist gets super specific, calling for a full orchestra of praise. You've got the timbrel for the rhythm, the pleasant harp for the melody, the psaltery bringing in the harmony, and then bam, the trumpet making this huge announcement. This wasn't just random, chaotic noise. This was skillful, intentional worship tied to really important holidays like the Feast of Trumpets. So you might be wondering, why all this celebration? What's the big deal? Well, the psalm quickly pivots from what they should do in worship to why they should do it. And it turns out this joyful noise was all about remembering something huge. You see, this worship was commanded as a testimony. Now, what does that mean? Think of it like a living, breathing, perpetual reminder of their origin story, God's incredible, miraculous rescue of Israel from slavery back in Egypt. It was their way of making sure they never, ever forgot where they came from and who it was that saved them. And then, right in the middle of this song of praise, everything changes. There's this massive shift. The voice of the person who wrote the psalm fades into the background, and God himself steps up and begins to speak directly. God doesn't mince words. He reminds them in his own voice. It was I who removed the slave's burden from your shoulder. It was I who freed your hands from the back-breaking work of making bricks. He says, "Thou callest in trouble, and I delivered thee." He's making it incredibly personal, saying, when you cried out, I am the one who showed up and rescued you. Okay, so after reminding them of exactly who he is and what he's done for them, God puts a choice on the table, a critical choice for their present and for their future. And folks, this is the absolute heart of the entire psalm. So you've got these two paths laid out, and it's a stark contrast. On one side, you have God's plea from verse 8, hearken unto me. He's begging them to listen, to turn away from all the strange gods, the idols of money or security or reputation, and to just trust him. But then on the other side, you see the tragic reality from verse 11. Israel would none of me. They chose to just listen to themselves, to follow the cravings of their own hearts and walk in their own flawed wisdom. And just listen to the incredible promise that comes with choosing his path. It is just beautiful. God says, I am the Lord thy God. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it. What a picture. He's basically saying, if you would just turn to me with all your needs, all your hopes, all your emptiness, I will satisfy you completely, abundantly. After such a gracious reminder and a promise like that, you'd think this story would have a happy ending, right? But that's not what happens. The psalm takes this heartbreaking turn and reveals the choice that Israel actually made. The Bible puts it so bluntly, it's almost shocking. But my people would not hearken to my voice, and Israel would none of me. And the consequence? It's chilling. God says, so I gave them up unto their own heart's lust, and they walked in their own counsels. He didn't force them. He essentially said, okay, you want to do it your way? Go ahead. He let them have what they insisted on and let them experience just how empty and destructive their own way really was. But the story doesn't just end there with judgment. This is where we really get a peek into God's heart, and we see how he truly feels about their rejection. And just listen to the tone here. Oh, that my people had hearkened unto me. This isn't the voice of an angry king. It's the sound of a heartbroken father, grieving over all the amazing things his children missed out on. He's saying, oh, if you had only listened, I would have given you victory. I would have given you peace.
So what exactly did they miss out on? The psalm goes on to paint this really vivid picture of all the incredible blessings they forfeited when they decided to go their own way.
I mean, just think about what this would have been like. Their enemies would have been defeated, their peace would have been secure, and their provision, it wouldn't have been just enough to get by. No, God promised them the finest of the wheat, the very best. And then there's this beautiful poetic line. He would have satisfied them with honey out of the rock. Sweetness, abundance, and blessing from the most unexpected places. That's what they missed. Now, it's easy to look back at ancient Israel and shake our heads, right? But here's the thing. This isn't just their story. It's our story. That same choice and that same incredible promise of blessing is on the table for every one of us right now, today.
So what does this look like for us? How do we make sure we choose his path? Well, it really breaks down into 4 practical steps. 1, we have to listen. We have to make space to hear his voice in scripture and in prayer. 2, we turn. We consciously turn away from our modern idols, the things we trust more than him. 3, we walk. This is about daily obedience, making those small, moment-by-moment choices to follow him. And finally, 4, we receive. We open our mouths wide and get ready to receive that deep, satisfying life he promises, that honey from the rock.
So, at the end of the day, Psalm 81 brings us right back to that crossroads, the same one Israel stood at. God has proven his love, he has promised his absolute best, and the question for you and for me is simply this: will we listen to his voice, or will we insist on walking in our own counsel? Which path will you choose to walk today?